Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but so somehow, though, he was part of your family at that time.
Right.
When you were...
Every day I would go to, up until I was 4 years old, I spent every single day that my father spent in the Pentagon. And I was allowed to do whatever I wanted. Admiral Hayward and Admiral Holloway, they were two consecutive SecNavs during the 1970s. And I used to sit on their lap while my dad would bring me in, drop me off, and he would go and do his work in the shadow government that he had to do. And the Secretary of the Navies would sit me on their lap, pull out the coloring books and crayons, and I would sit and color and play in their laps while senators and, all kinds of congressmen, high-level elite would all come in, and they'd discuss things, and they're not thinking a 4-year-old child is taking it in. And here I am. I'm brought here to be an observer. I'm brought here to know what's going on. So my little mind was taking it all in.
Okay.
And I've been in the Situation Room. I happily always walked into the White House before we would even walk up to it. The door would open and they say, "Hello, Mr. Green," and I'd just come trotting in behind them, and I could just go and do what I wanted.
Okay, so in a sense, he was. Did you see him also interact with your parents at that time when you were young?
No. Whenever I was with him, it was alone.
Okay. So in a sense, perhaps he was your handler at a young age.
He very much could have been. Like I said, he was a loved part of my program.
Yeah.
So that makes sense,
So did you grow up in like a normal house?
Oh, no, it was so extremely strict. And I grew up with money, so I wasn't without money. It just wasn't as much money as my brother was able to grow up with. And there was a lot of abuse in my house, but there was also a lot of ETs in my house at times. And so I grew up having these meetings with ETs and stuff with my parents at a very young age.
Okay, so, but just to kind of paint a picture for people.
Okay.
Can we describe, like, the house that you grew up? Where was it? What state?
I grew up in Washington, D.C., my first 9 years. And then my second 9 years after, that's when my father retired from the shadow government. And he moved us down to southern Maryland. And I had a normal house. And the only thing that was that we tried to portray a perfect family on the outside. And when I would go behind closed doors, my father would, I always knew when it was coming because he would come in, he'd strip me from waist down, hold me by 2 feet, and I could hear the belt come off, and he would beat me until his frustration was done. And that was part of my programming, was to be beat like that. My mother, at least once a month, would poison me with something. And I can remember her standing over me, and I'm on the ground, and I'm writhing in pain because this is eating my stomach alive. And she just looks at me and she goes, suck it up, get up, it's time to get up, And she didn't care. She wanted me gone because I was put with her, and I wasn't her child. And
when you say you weren't her child, whose child were you?
The mother on the other side.
Oh, okay. And do you remember the mother on the other side?
Loving as can be. Beautiful, loving, wonderful woman.
Okay, so what time, in other words, when you say, because it sounds like you were going back and forth from side to side then, because if you knew your mother as a loving person, then you had to be old enough to remember.
I have full recollection of before I was regressed from where I was before.
Okay, so when you say regressed, I think maybe it's the usage of that word, but let's say you lived a life on the other side, okay, and you reached, let's even just start with the age of 4.
Okay.
If you're at the age of 4 on the other side, do you grow to the age of your age now?
Yes.
Okay. And when you say you're regressed, if you cross over to this side, then what happens to the person who is now, let's say, what is your age approximately?
I will be 44 in 2 weeks.
It's funny, I was just going to say 44 if your age is 44. I don't know where that was coming from. Okay, so you're 44, you go into this program in Canada, you walk into a facility as a 44-year-old woman, then you're regressed, you say.
Right.
Regressed how? Do you know?
No, I just know it was painful. I remember my husband, Before we came over here, my husband looked at me. He walked over to me, and I'm sitting on a couch like this, and he just holds out his hand and he goes, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "You know this is going to hurt a lot." And I said, "I know." And there I came. I walked over with my father, and then I don't believe my husband's body or my children's bodies were brought over, but I do know that their souls were brought here and put in different, the bodies they needed to be in for our family to be together again.
Okay.
There's a mission with my family, and my family is brought here to do peace.
Okay.
It's just getting there. It's getting all of us super soldiers together, and mind controls victims, and even the Project IBIS children together, all of us, so that we can change what's happened and use what's happened to us against who harmed us.
Okay, so, but you are a Rothschild on the other side as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So at this point, in some way you're regressed that you don't remember, but do you start out as a baby on this side?
Yes.
Okay, so you have to go through all those ages again, right?
Right.
Okay. So, but you have the memory, the recall.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I'm anxious to do regression sometime. I would love to do it so that I can. I feel that would be my way of proving it to everybody if I can have a videotaped regression done, so that people can see that I'm telling the truth. I have nothing to hide.
Okay, let me ask you: have you ever seen the TV show Fringe?
Yes. I identify with that absolutely 100%.
Okay. My question to you is, if you look at, I forget her name. It's not
Olivia?
Yeah, Olivia. When she goes back over to the other side, there's another Olivia there.
Right.
Okay. So she doesn't go through kind of the way you're describing it. In other words, she's already on this side, grew up on this side, so and so. But the Olivia she meets grew up in a different parallel reality.
Right.
And I believe that we do have multiple realities going on simultaneously.
Yes, yes.
And
absolutely.
we're all actually on both sides. But I've actually recently had some whistleblowers who are time travelers, who have revealed to me what, and it's been a leap of conjecture for me, basically saying what seems to be happening, because they have identified that there are some people here who appear to be scientists, for example, Nazi scientists from the time of Paperclip, who are here even as younger men, but the same men. In other words, very famous scientists, Werner von Braun, for example, and what's this guy, Max? Is it Ingalls? I'm not sure. Anyhow, other people, and Mark Twain, for example, other people that aren't in black projects as we think of them. But basically what I understand is a possibility is the scenario that went on in Fringe, in which they actually crossed over and came over here. That body from that reality was brought over here, whereas the one that was here was died or done away with in some way.
Right.
So that's one scenario. Right. Now there's another scenario that sounds like, and then also there's a component part of that wasn't in Fringe, but that they've actually learned how to do what you're just saying, which is regress. They've actually learned how to turn back the clock, so you not only don't age, but you actually can get younger. Right. And I don't think, now this may be the limits of my imagination, but I'm saying I don't think, in other words, I think it goes back to a certain, like I could be, at this point I could go back to maybe 19. I probably can't go back to being a baby, an infant in a crib type of thing. So at that point you have a gap. I know this is a long question, and I'm I don't mean to go into like a big explanation here, but I'm really curious what you might think of this. Is it possible that you might have some missing time between the age of 0 and 10? I'm just, picking a number out of a hat, in which you actually don't have memories from this side.
That is an absolute possibility.
It is.
It's an absolute possibility. Okay. I don't push anything away these days. If somebody brings it to me, obviously there's a reason. So maybe I should look into that, and regression would be the way to do it. Right.
Okay. So, but it's not something that you are like at this moment. If I said, do you remember everything? I mean, nobody remembers everything, I don't think, from when they were, like whatever age a person is to there's a zero, even on this side, you know what I'm saying? Right. A lot of times there'll be gaps in your memory.
Oh, anybody can have that happen to
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
But have you ever noticed like a profound sense of any gaps?
In my 20s.
Gaps in your 20s?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Like whole maybe years or spans of time where you don't recall having been here, kind of like?
Yes, years.
Because you don't have pieces to put in there?
Yes, years.
Years, okay. All right, it's just interesting. It's just gathering data. We don't, I don't know where it leads. I was just, because I've been putting this puzzle together.
It's the little puzzle pieces. Once we get all these puzzle pieces together, we'll find peace.
Yeah.
We just got to get all these puzzle pieces together.
Right, and I think that it's a fascinating story in general with humanity, and when you bring time travel into it, it's a new component that most people haven't really thought of. I don't know if you know, but I've just done a conference on time travel.
No, I haven't looked at it yet.
Yeah, no problem. But it's quite fascinating, and I have whistleblowers that are talking about time travel, etc. And
Have you done Mars yet?
Yes.
I know a bit about Mars too.
Yeah, and that would be great to hear your take on all of that. So, but so that we don't jump too far ahead, I want to stay in kind of this area. And I'm sorry if this seems a little confusing to people listening. I'm conscious that I want to keep a through line. So at this point, you were regressed. You come back. You have these memories. And you're over on this side, but you are a Rothschild. You're growing up and you're being tortured in Maryland, and you're also.
I was also tortured in the Kentucky facility underground. That was my main torture point.
Okay, but at what ages? Because you started off, you said
I can remember a valid memory about 12 years old, 10 to 12 years old, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
And
the years when you were in the Pentagon. As a child. After that, if you were just to try and make a through line, at what point do you get into the Kentucky facility? Where does that fit in?
Well, after I started getting raped at 4, because once I turned 4 years old, that's when the painful torture started, the bad part of the love bombing. And the minute I turned 4 years old, my father walked me into a room, and a bunch of men that were high up in the Pentagon, I can't say who it was, they all raped me. And then my father took me home. My mother didn't care, didn't wipe me up, didn't clean me up, didn't take me to the doctors, didn't do anything, just sat me in my room, and that was it.
Okay, but did you have a conscious memory of this, or you had to be regressed to find this out?
I had a conscious memory of it.
From what age?
About 4 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
So it just came through at some point.
My son is the one that started breaking down first, and that's what started my memories just.
What do you mean your son started breaking down?
My son's a super soldier.
Okay, how old is your son?
He is 18 now.
Okay, and when you say he started to break down, what do you mean by that?
At the age of 12, I didn't know he started smoking marijuana, and marijuana is a deprogrammer. And by the age of 15, he broke down in front of me and my husband and said, "I don't know what's going on with me, Mom, but they keep telling me from the age of 2 on that my name is Jesus Christ." And through research and finding out, I found out it's called Chosen One Messiah Training. Yeah, and I'll show you pictures. On his back, all the way down his back, they took a whip to him, and they take these whips to these children to simulate what happened to Jesus, and they break him down, but they tell him, "You're Jesus Christ, you got to get whipped," And I mean, I don't know exactly what he went through because I didn't have that particular training.